incident was about to take place that would shake the foundations of the civilized world.
It is time to open your mind. Time to discover your divine self as we navigate this holographic matrix together. Strap in, Cosmic Family, as we slide through this wormhole of cosmic information together in search of the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
It's time to go inside the matrix. With your host, Jimmy Brent.
All right, welcome everybody to Inside the Matrix today. I hope you're maintaining well in this time of incredible craziness. And today I'm bringing back two of our really popular guests. One from last week, James True, and also Benjamin Balderson will be joining us shortly as well. So, James, great to have you back this week.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy. I really appreciate it.
I love the show that you did with Crow earlier this week. That was also very excellent, and I know a lot of people really liked that. You got into some really interesting topics, and I hope to kind of keep going along some of those lines as well. And one of the things that you brought up was the whole idea of, plasma being so important in our understanding of how energy flows and works. And maybe you can kind of give us a little primer on that, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, I'd love to. We have energy all around our body. We are an electromagnetic connection, and that energy is broadcast in lots of different ways. What we feel as love, what we feel as when we think of somebody, is basically a feedback from that plasma, and we can control and tangibly decide where that energy goes. But until we understand that plasma is real, until we understand that our energy is a tangible substance, it's going to leave our body without our consent and without our knowing. It's going to be able to be hijacked by someone else. This is the nature of lies. This is the nature of someone empowering you. What they do is they take your own power away, and then they feed a small portion of that back to you, so that you think that you are now getting that power from someone else outside of you. And that creates an addiction. It creates a codependent relationship where you are now beholden to someone else to actually give you your own power back.
Yeah, and there are so many ways, as you pointed out, that we literally give away our power constantly to a lot of the, I guess you would maybe call them icons or things that are archetypes, that, things that are stuck in our face through the media. And when we buy into a lot of that, we end up just throwing away our personal power.
Absolutely. In fact, that's the entire purpose of black magic is to basically have that taken away from us, and then it becomes epigenetically lost. In other words, plasma that we had generations ago is gone because it was slowly taxed, slowly removed from our system, and we end up not knowing that we needed it. I would argue, Jimmy, that government itself is actually a form of that usurpation. I'm not at all trying to say that we shouldn't have any form of government. I'm trying to explain to you that black magicians have used government as a method of taking this plasma away from you and selling it back to you under a heavy, heavy taxation that comes with that energy.
We are literally being extorted in so many different ways. It's mind-boggling when you think about it. From a little bit more of a physical way, financially, we're constantly being harvested and extorted, right? Mm-hmm. Then we also have the more etheric ways that we're being, harvested for our energy as well. It's really mind-boggling and crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, in fact, I can give an analogy to kind of explain it, because I think people might have trouble believing how that actually works. And if you can imagine that you're a sheep, and the rancher sends 20 dogs out to surround your flock. And when you see these 20 dogs come out, you are kind of freaking out. You're completely surrounded by what you perceive as danger. And so your endocrine system raises, you start to vasoconstrict, you become beholden to the danger that's around you. You actually end up hypnotized by this sense of panic. It's not fear, it's panic. Now, imagine those 20 dogs, 19 of them are now recalled. The rancher has now pulled 19 of them back in. You as a sheep will automatically feel a sense of comfort as a direct result of what that shepherd did. He brought in 19 of those sheep. But now you have one dog that is now living amongst you. Imagine,
that's accepted, right?
Yes.
Now it's accepted where it wasn't necessarily before.
That's right, because you're comparing it to 20 dogs, therefore it feels better. And so if you imagine that process being repeated 20 times in a row, you will still end up with 20 dogs, and you will still end up with sheep that are completely loyal to the very person that introduced the dogs to begin with.
Oh my gosh. And we see that happening right now, right? Because they're going to roll this back, probably, my guess is in a couple more weeks, they're going to roll back this whole craziness and say, oh, it's just, and they're already laying the groundwork for it, saying, well, it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be. So, as they take away more of our rights and spy on us a little more, it'll be more accepted because, these are drastic times and we have to take drastic measures in order to protect all your people, right?
Yep, of course. Yeah, we can't have anyone getting sick. Therefore, we need to completely remove any sense of democracy or liberty or government because of someone sick. Imagine the forefathers saying, "Hey, none of this counts if somebody gets sick," right? And everyone's like,
yeah,
"Of
just
course,
throw it all out the window."
Yeah, someone's sick. What are you kidding? He's got the flu. No, habeas corpus. No, So if people are not seeing this, I can't stress this enough. If people are not seeing what's happening around them, this is not a lack of logic. This is not a lack of perspective. This is not a lack of intelligence. This is a lack of courage, fortitude, and internal integrity, because they are literally selling their grandchildren away for the comfort of what they can feel today. They're trading all their future in, their entire genetic line, they're trading in for some comfort right now. And that's why you have migration. That's why you have people that are constantly being told how crappy they are, that they're not seeing how important their line is. They're not seeing how important that epigenetic history is. Therefore, they're more prone to just sell the whole thing just for a few hours of comfort or a few more days of the illusion that it was 19 box cutters or that it was a crazy turning magic bullet that no one could have ever foreseen. It's always these stories added on top of each other.
Oh my gosh.
Giant can of worms with that one.
Oh, Benjamin, welcome. Finally, we have you on, brother. How are you?
Well, anybody that's listened to me for a while absolutely knows computer technical difficulties are my specialty.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're so glad you're here with us. And we're just, talking about the craziness that's going on in our world right now. And, obviously it's a huge psychological operation. It's a, when the sheep get a little too uppity, they need to be shown that, they're going to be taken under control. And that's pretty much what's happening now.
Well, and he kind of, my good friend James brought it to this point without just nailing the point that the fact is this flu, we're not talking about the Black Plague. We're talking about a basic discomfort, including the one right before that, which is measles. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, for the vast majority of the world, this is a discomfort. It's 2 or 3 days of not feeling good. And we're willing to trade away our freedoms for not being on discomfort. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and of course that's not the way it was portrayed to us. Of course, they have to drum up the mass hysteria and just show all the coffins in Italy of all the this incredible hype that we've been experiencing. And, they're just not letting up. And then they parade out all these, CDC idiots and WHO idiots to tell us how terrible and devastating it is. And this could be, just the end of the world if we don't take these drastic measures. And eventually we have to get to the point as human beings that these things do not trigger us into losing our minds.
Yep. The key is to realize that this really has nothing at all to do with any kind of sickness. This is a complete pillage. And that means that you're going to see a lot of fraud happening on a lot of different scales at exactly the same time. And when you commit all those frauds at the same time, you have a nice blanket. The fog of war is a weapon in and of itself. In fact, they will create a war strictly to create the fog. And inside that fog, what has Trump done? He's literally gone in front of the entire world and said, hey, I'll give you $15 million if you put a bullet in the president of Venezuela's head. And guys, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not exaggerating. No, those were not his exact words, but that's what happened. 3-4 days ago, Trump put out a hit on the president of another country's head in broad daylight. And all of us are still focused on the COVID virus. And how come we can't get more masks? Even though they've been told masks will not help, how can we get more? How do we fix this? So it's the fog of war, always the exact same trick every single time.
Oh, absolutely. And Benjamin Balderson, tell us how this may fit alchemically into this crazy structure we have.
So anytime you're getting ready to perform alchemy on something, be it plant, animal, mineral, human, the first thing that you need to do is break it down. In order to make what you want and start pulling out the pieces that you want. Because the essence of alchemy, and something that people are confusing so much today, because the word alchemy is getting thrown over everything. Mm-hmm. But what an alchemist truly does is break down the prima materia into its monoatomic components. And then once you're at that point, you start pulling out what you want or what you don't want and leaving what you want. But same basic process. Mm-hmm. So if we took this into a pile of Legos, I walk up to a Lego castle and I take apart every single Lego. And then I separate the Legos into their specific components to where each pile is 1 or 2 dots or the 6 dots. And this one's a red pile of 6 dots. This one's a yellow pile of 6 dots. You're making everything as specifically broken down as it possibly can get. And then you're taking out the pieces that you want. So in order to do this with a civilization, the first thing we have to do is break that civilization down. We cannot change a civilization that is solid and stable and everybody's happy with it. Because then when you come in and try and make these drastic changes, everybody's going to rebel against you.
Right.
But when you create the problem, such as James's scenario with the sheepdogs, and now you're just happy that things are back to a rational, like, well, it's only one problem now. Okay, you took care of 19 for me. Good.
Oh my. Yeah, this is even bigger than 9/11, I think. In many ways. This isn't even 2.0 of the PSYOPs. I don't know maybe this is 20.0 or something.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy, did you stop? Did you punish anyone for 9/11? Because I didn't.
Nope.
Ben, did you punish anybody for 9/11?
Not a single person.
Did our government punish anyone for 9/11?
Nope.
So
Eric Holder didn't seem to want to hold anybody accountable.
Was anyone in the military fired, reprimanded, or demoted for their failure on 9/11?
Oh, no. And neither was James Comey in the FBI and all those people who helped cover up and get rid of the evidence as quickly as possible.
So my question to the people outside is, why would they not do it again? What is the motivation for them to stop? I don't see one. In fact, I see the opposite. I see
There's no
an
consequence.
invitation. Yeah. I see an invitation. I see Lady Liberty hiking her rump up into the air, pulling her dress up, and say, "Let's do it again. Let's do this whole thing again." And all
there
of us,
was no repercussions the first time.
Yep. And all of us, because we want that comfort, because we're addicted to that comfort level, we're willing to take it. And we're under the impression that if we do this one more time, it'll be okay this time. It's like Trump is coming in and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, economy. I'm sorry I hit you, but I love you. I love you so much. I'll never do it again. Here, let me stimulate you a little bit. Let me tell you how much I love you. This will never happen again." And all of us are looking at him going, "Oh, well, he told us he's bought us some jewelry. He must really care for us. We just don't understand the kind of pressure he's under. That's all this is. He's just under pressure. This is all going to be okay tomorrow." And that's what we're doing in broad daylight in front of our children. We're looking at our children and we're saying, "This is how you deal with it. You just take it. That's how you solve this problem."
We've started holding our leaders to less accountability than what we would personally hold ourselves. From the days where Nixon bailed out before he could get impeached, all the way up till now, you've got Clinton getting oral sex by his helpers in the White House, all kinds of very immoral things by the head of our country. And this is how you're supposed to act. These people are supposed to be better than you. That's what you're stating when you put them in charge of you, that this is a more moral, more intelligent person that's going to make better decisions. So I give him this power over me.
You give him your plasma. You literally feed him that plasma energy from inside you. The same belief that you have that your plant's going to grow, that your goat's going to be okay, that your chickens are going to hatch eggs, you give to the government and you say, "I believe in you. I want you to have this plasma. I want you to have this prana. I've worked hard on it. I sacrifice it to you. Do what you think's best." And that's what we've been doing since day one. That's what we've been doing since 5,000 years ago, or however many years ago, when they first pulled in the 19 sheep. Is we said, "I'm going to believe in this." And it's just been an endless cycle of resonance ever since, where it keeps building. It's weird because we only see 9/11. Like, we look at 9/11 as almost like a pinnacle event, but it wasn't. Look at World War II. Look at World War I. Look at the Revolutionary War. Look at the Civil War. All of these have been fog of war tactics that have been used as a cover to come in and do something very, very sinister and very, very evil. And never once, ever has anyone stopped them or punished them for it.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Can we run through that list quick? The Revolutionary War, England decided that we could only trade goods in Bank of England monetary system. So we had to borrow money from the Bank of England at interest in order to do business with Europe. So we were no longer able to coin our own money. Very similar to the setup that we have right now. And we're all taught throughout school that it was because of a very minor tax. And this whole taxation without representation, that was nothing compared to understanding that if we let another country coin our money and do it at interest to us, and we're only allowed to pay it back in that money, that is absolutely an impossible system. The Civil War, it's touted that was over slavery, and Abraham Lincoln himself said slavery was a secondary issue. The greenback was being introduced to replace the monetary system, and Abraham Lincoln got assassinated. World War I and World War II, prior to that, the Balfour Agreement was signed by English royalty, stating that they would do whatever they could to see the introduction of the state of Israel. And the total actual, if you look at what actually happened as a result of World War I and World War II, was the introduction of the state of Israel.
Yep, and that Balfour Declaration, I think it was 1918 or 1917, well before World War II, but they needed to accentuate the point and bring that about. And
they needed to make the sacrifice.
Then,
it says in the Torah that 6 million Jews had to be sacrificed as chaff before the wheat, before the return of the Holy Land.
And then now we see talk about making literal animal sacrifices at Solomon's temple. And they're trying to get permission now to begin that process and start sacrificing animals at the temple to further bring in this whole, revelation, biblical thing that they want to bring about.
It's a magical spell. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a magical spell they're doing. And that, sorry to interrupt you, but that lamb, that sacrifice lamb, is actually an as above, so below thing. There's human hope that's attached to that lamb, and that human hope will be slaughtered on the brazen altar. That blood will be collected, just like Ben's saying. They will break it down into its lowest common denominator. It will take those parts, and it will use that parts for black magic. The more hope we give them, the more black magic they have to use against us.
Wow. It just seems so mind-boggling and almost hopeless in a way, but the hope comes to us, and really our only salvation, if there is to be it, is what we have to create, that we have to learn to stand up on our own 2 feet and recognize things for what they are and refuse to cooperate with them, because that's the only thing that we have going for us. I mean, if we could unite in that way, and of course that's a tall order. Anyway, we're up against a break here. I'm sorry to cut you guys off because this is getting really interesting. You're listening to Inside the Matrix. We're going to take a short pause. We'll be right back in just a little bit. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Matrix, our second segment today with James True and Benjamin Balderson. James, you want to pick up where we left off before the break there?
Yeah, about the innocence in the lamb, right? We want to kind of touch on that. Ben, feel free to jump in here, but that just like you have an as above, so below, you've got a resonance that's going to be necessary for any magic. The people of the temple have asked the state of Israel to condone and allow the sacrifice of a lamb, of an innocent animal on the Temple Mount. Last year, they sacrificed one within view of the Temple Mount. So basically, they could see the Temple Mount where they made the sacrifice. This is symbolic of it getting closer and closer and closer. There are 10 of the 11 incenses that are supposed to be burned inside the temple have been mixed and lit. That happened last year. Once you see this sacrifice happen, those 11 incenses are also going to burn. And it really does turn into a cog where something starts to unroll. The ritual is now cannot be stopped. So this symbolic sacrifice, this sacrifice of the lamb, if Israel proves it, and they will, is also symbolic because it's going to have other things attached to it for the magic to work. Those other things are hope. You need to think about what is the innocence of a lamb? What kind of energy goes along with that? And it's the energy of hope. It's the energy of vulnerability and hope in the same kind of way. And because of that, they're going to collect all the hope of as many people as they can in America and sacrifice that with the lamb. This is actually the purpose of a group called QAnon. They've been pushing out rumors to this group, telling them that everything's going to be okay. Secretly, there's white hats that are fixing this whole thing. This whole part is part of this black magic ritual. They're collecting the core group of people that would have doubted what's happening. The people that saw what happened on 9/11 and would have spoken up, and they've pulled them into this little inner circle, and they've been whispering these rumors of the most amazing magical thing that could ever happen to help them is going to happen. And that's collecting this hope into a central figure, this QAnon figure, or i.e. the president too. It's pushing all this hope in, and when they sacrifice it, that feeling that they have, imagine the feeling of being that lamb where you've been raised up and brought brought to life your whole life by this person that says he loves you, and then suddenly he's shedding your blood for no reason at all, specifically for the magic. He's turned you from a living creature into an object, into an alchemical material that can be used to build something else. All that magic is the sacrifice that's going to bring about this one world tower, this Tower of Babel that's rising. And the symbolism inside of there is this 5G that's going up all around the world. All of those towers, there's 19,000 towns in America. Each of them are going to have one of these towers. This tower is the symbolism of what's coming, the New World Order. So all of this is part of the spell. It's as above, so below. This is classic Kabbalism. Everyone knows Trump is a Kabbalist. Everyone knows Jared Kushner is a Kabbalist. Everyone knows most of the people that are involved in Washington do practice some sort of Kabbalism. When you're a Kabbalist, all you're really doing is just aligning resonance, aligning frequency, aligning oscillation, and using it as a throttle behind your will to enact the magic that you want to start.
So, can I jump in here now, James?
Yeah, go ahead.
Man.
So I think we need to break down the way magic works for people a little bit. So when you're looking at magic, it's very much like you're sailing a ship. And when you're sailing a ship, the oars are going to be your will, which are definitely powerful and will get you going where you need to go. But you need to align that into the currents underneath. And you also need to align that into the wind currents above. So when you're looking at magic, those currents underneath is your Earth's ley lines, your energy grid. And you look at that exactly as you do in the acupuncture points of the human body. So the Earth in and of itself is going to have different nodes that are going to be very specific for a kind of energy, the same way as you have nodes in your body that are specific for a kind of energy. So you start out by putting your ceremony in that spot. As above, you need to do the ceremony on a specific day, just like you would not plant a seed and you would not harvest the plants during the wrong season. There's a specific energy that happens on specific days. And you need to work with that and understand that. Once you've done that, when you put your will into it, now you're really going. Now you're working with the world, with the overall universe, the entire thing. Now, the whole reason that you have to do ceremonial magic is, as a person, part of why they say as above, so below is because everything is made the same. Just as we talked about with our will being the center level, and then we have a dense level and an etheric level. When we look at plants, we have the salts, which is your dense level, the oil, which is your etheric level, and the carbon, water, and cellular material are your middle plane. Well, when you're trying to deal with your salts are a dense mind. You have 3 minds, and your salts are your dense mind, or depending on what cosmology you're talking about, as far as heathens go, which is what I am, that's the Vanir. As far as the Abrahamics go, that's going to be your demons. It's going to be your elementals, your land whites, anything that's dense and earthy. So you need to, when you're trying to talk to those things, you're doing it in ceremony. So there's a reason that you're doing things, a specific number of steps and a specific number of motions. What you're doing is you're speaking to your dense mind, which does not speak in English, and you're telling it what to do. The reason that there's 33 steps, when people go, well, that's metaphorical for your spine and blah, blah, they're right. But what they're not understanding is you are doing that specific action in order to speak to your dense mind. So it's both. Then you're saying the words and you're doing it at exactly the right time. You're trying to get all 3 of your forces, which then brings us up to where, again, they were doing the breakdown of society. And as James just said, they're trying to turn the 2 pillars into one. Well, this brings us to the lamp. There's always actually 3 pillars, and everybody always for some reason, when they talk about 9/11, it's the two towers. But what they always forget is there's always a third lesser tower that gets sacrificed. Always.
Building 7.
Yes. And
wow.
And the same thing when I'm doing alchemy, I sacrifice the carbon, water, and cellular material in order to bring the salt and the oil to their epitomes to make them what I want. So the salt and the oil are the two towers, and the small tower is sacrificed and burnt in order to merge the two into one. So when we're looking at this as Odin, that's why Odin's known as first and third, because the second, or the Ve, was sacrificed in order for his Vili mind and his Odin mind to become one thing. Now, with the hope, also what I want to put in there is there's a reason that this is a lamb. Because the first time that a female has sexual congress with the male, not only does the female take in the DNA of the male and incorporate that into her system, thereby changing her, but the male has released his salts into the female, and now he's given up some of his salt. So when it's a virgin and it's a lamb, now we're talking about a purity of energy in a very specific thing. And when we talk about actually killing it, we know that a battery, if a battery is full, it weighs substantially more than a battery that's been depleted. We can all take a nice gram scale, take a set of D batteries or whatever, so it's easier to tell, but you can do it with any size, and take a brand new one and one that's dead and weigh the two. There's a substantial difference, and a human loses 21 grams of pure energy when they die. So does an animal. The animal's going to lose a pure electrical charge that's going to be the igniter that kickstarts this entire process.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
It leaves me speechless after I hear that. Okay, this is all magic that's being performed on us. And surely, James, we have our own magic.
Totally. Yeah, we do. In fact, the worse they do, the more power is available for you to fight it. But you have to notice it. If you're going to deny that it's happening, what you're really doing is that you are refusing to have all the power and energy that the universe is offering to you to oppose this. That's what denial really means. You're denying prana. You're denying the plasma that comes. The opposite of hope is courage. The opposite of hope is I am willing to sacrifice anything inside of myself to protect my pride. Isn't it funny how a lion has a pride?
Mm-hmm.
They are willing to do whatever it takes. That is the sacrifice on the good side of magic. Keep in mind that you can sacrifice things that are you. Your time is a living sacrifice of salt. The calories that you're burning in your brain, as we're having this conversation, Ben, Jimmy, and I have all sacrificed our time for this piece of magic right now, this understanding that we're trying to convey. So sacrificial magic is alive in everything you do. None of us are immune to it. None of us are not participating in it. If you're waking up in the morning, you are sacrificing your time to something. It's going to depend on where you want to put that sacrifice, what you want to send it into. It's very difficult when you're talking to people that want to hold on to hope, because you're trying to tell them that hope is hurting them. And they keep swearing up and down, no, you don't understand. No, you don't understand. Hope is the light. Hope is the only thing that gets you through. Hope is the only thing that makes you survive. And they just don't understand. All hope does is allows you to cope with yourself until the time of execution. It's a very, very different sort of mindset that you enter into when you decide that hope is the energetic oscillation that you want to do. You are literally begging for someone to come slit your throat when you're in hope. You are setting yourself up for that prone. You actually want that to happen. It's actually part of what you are now part of that spell, because the moment you defy hope is the moment you drop your consent. The moment you drop your consent is the moment you stop pouring magic into the ritual inside, because now you no longer consent to it. Hope is a form of consent. It's absolutely crucial to this thing. This is why they're going around creating things called the Centers for Disease Control. They cannot take our consent. It doesn't work as powerful in their magic. They need us to give our consent to them. They need us to bring the consent to them. That's why when they see us all begging for more CDC lyrics, please sing us more a song about how terrible this is and how we're so deadly vulnerable and how our immune systems are terrible. What they're seeing, they're getting like massive boner watching us beg the CDC to help them, when literally, it's the actual poisoner that's doing the damage to us. And that is part of what makes this magic so dark, is that they're watching us beg for it. This is what the Lamb does without knowing it. The Lamb is clinging to hope, but what the Lamb really is doing is saying, please end this. Please end this. Do whatever it is you need to do. I just really hope it ends soon. That's really what's happening. So the opposite of that is the lion. The opposite of that is, I don't care if it kills me. This is not what I agreed to. This is not what I signed up for. And that really does become your own system of magic. And that's really all it takes right now for us to defeat this. All we have to do is claim our power and realize that fear itself is pure, raw, adrenalized power. And it's there in your veins, but you've been taught since the time you're born that fear is bad. And there's a certain process that happens. Fear is like a Jacob's ladder inside yourself. And first you have to accept that fear is a gift, that most people fail right there. They think fear is a problem. So as soon as you learn to accept fear as a gift, then you can start to raise up the ladder. And I won't go into the details, but there's basically like 5 steps that you have to raise up to, that you turn fear alchemically into pure raw power. And you have to take these steps up one by one. But right now, as soon as we feel fear, we're under the impression we have to empty it. We have to expunge it and go back into this system of hope. Or they call it love. They're saying, no, you have to turn fear into love. You cannot turn fear into love. You cannot turn a C sharp into a B flat and expect everything just to work out. You have to pace. If you're going to change the tone, you got to lead and pace this tone into a different direction. And that's what these 5 steps are. You got to alchemize that fear and realize it's a gift. It's 3 trillion of your blood cells saying, Jimmy, here's all the power you got, buddy. We've got the engines full tilt. Let's fucking kill these guys, because they're going to kill us if we don't. And we have to accept that and learn to harness that and learn to focus it in a way, much like they do. But again, using it for our own protection and calling our own magic into the world. That's how this whole place works, guys. This entire ether works on magic. And we've been told it's a vacuum, which means we don't even think magic can leave the body, because it's instantly lost into this endless vacuumous bullshit that we're under the impression is called outer space. It's all part of this mind control. Every single lie they tell you is a necessary step to suspend and geld your power and your magic, all of it. That's why they tell you magic's fantasy. That's why Disney is so focused on magic being a cartoon. All of these are necessary steps to get you to realize, or to get you to believe, that your best bet is to be meek, your best bet is to be selfless, your best bet is to drain every single ounce of ego you could possibly have, and your best bet is just to lay down like a lamb and just hope for it to come. That's why hope was the last sin inside of Pandora's box. It wasn't a gift. Hope is not a gift. If you look back at the history of hope, you'll see it's never, ever been considered a gift. It's only when we live in this inversion land that we have now. Where
hope requires a savior. When you are going to do it yourself, you don't hope. You just get it done.
Yep.
Hope requires a savior.
Yes, it does. Hope requires you to actually be in need, too. You have to then surrender in order to accept hope. Imagine a lion can't hope. A lion's too busy fulfilling its will. A lamb can't have a will because it wouldn't be able to fulfill this vulnerability of emitting hope all the time. These are two totally different oscillations, totally different vibrations.
So we're basically self-medicating with hope at this point.
Yes. Hopium.
Yeah, hopium.
Yeah.
And so where does anger fit into this, guys?
Oh, boy. So anger is something that they have entirely tried to neuter society of. Not just anger, but competence and the ability to just stand up for yourself. If you're wanting to do that, you absolutely are a vile animal that needs to be neutered.
Mm-hmm.
They've done it on every single level, starting out with breaking apart the family and then excising off the father. So now we've got this society where we're told that that masculinity has become a toxic problem. But since I've been a child, the vast majority of people get divorced, and out of that, the vast majority of children live with their mothers. Then the vast majority of daycare providers are women, and the vast majority of teachers are women. So our young men have been raised by women their entire lives. I'm not sure where the masculinity is even fitting into this, except for to pay a child support check. You know, so they've continually just pushed all of that out. Well, then you look at fluoride. Fluoride is basically the same thing as Prozac. They're just making sure everybody is as mellow as possible. The same type of thing is in the slaughter yard. You don't want your cows getting all excited. You don't go beating up a cow and killing it in front of all the other cows that are standing there waiting to be slaughtered. You put that bugger down a chute, get him away from the other cows. You keep these ones nice and calm, give them some sweet treats, let them do what they're doing. Over here, you're killing this one. So they've completely neutered that in every way. And then you take aluminum, and that aluminum is shutting down your cellular salts, which is where your masculine power is coming from. We can even bring this back to what a goyim is. A goyim is somebody without a soul, not without a mind, not without a spirit. You still have your ability to think, and you're useful in that fashion, but you lose all of your true power, your soul, your salt. And they're trying to shut that down in every single way. It even brings up to where you're talking about making people migrate and move away from their areas. And the Catholic Church, so many hundreds of years ago, decided that we couldn't intermarry amongst each other. Now, I'm certainly not trying to promote incest, but if you look at it, all the higher society people, that's just what they do. And we all, for some reason, accept that. That for some reason that all these people can be born on the same property, intermingling their salts and never changing them out. But it's different for the rest of us. And for some reason, we don't look at that and go, why do the people in charge keep doing this thing that they tell us not to? That's very weird. And so they've disconnected you from your own cell salts. And as far as the majority of Americans, they're telling everybody that we came out of one small area in Israel, and that's where the birth of man came, when the fact is even in their own story, because we have no soul, we're not people. But there was people around. There was South African people, then there was the Mediterranean people, all these people that somehow had these advanced civilizations that supposedly enslaved them, they weren't even people. Adam and Eve were the first two people, according to them. So none of this lines up at all. You need to understand that we are goyim, and we are not supposed to have power. And they are operating on this level, and it says it right in their book. It's not like I'm making up things. That this is something that they specifically talk about and have specifically made an agenda to see happen.
No, we're talking about the Talmud here, right?
Yep.
Yes.
It's an oral tradition, and right alongside with Ben, right alongside what Ben just described, they've also have the golem, which is literally a robot made out of clay that runs on words. And what you're looking at there is the outer church, that's the Goyim, the humans that have no soul, is intermingling with the robots, the Golem. And they've seen this plan for a long, long time, Jimmy.
Okay, James, I'm so sorry to have to cut you off right here, but we're just got a few seconds before the break. So we're going to continue. This is fascinating, and people need to know this. You're listening to Inside the Matrix. We'll be right back in just a little bit. Stick around with us. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Matrix in our third segment today. Before the break, we were touching on the Talmud. Now, the Talmud is far different from the Torah, which is the Old Testament of the Bible, and other books out there. And there's a group of people who refer to themselves largely as Zionists who are, follow that to a T. Now, we have to make the distinction between Zion and Judaism, because the two are not synonymous. They are not anywhere near remotely the same. And when we're talking about Zionists, they're not just Jewish people that are Zionists. There are Christians that call themselves Zionists and all kinds of other people. This is a world domination plan. It's a black magic plan. And so we need to make that distinction. We're not talking about, because all the people will come back with, anti-Semite, this and that. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with that. Right, yeah. James? Yeah,
in fact, so first of all, there is nothing Jewish about Zionism. Just as Jimmy said, they're not the same. They're completely different. Not only that, it's only people who see the truth, like Ben and I do, that understand that actually the Jewish people are being tortured in this entire arrangement. This is called pedestal abuse. It's golden child syndrome. And what happens is you were told that you can do no wrong. You were evacuated. Someone is evacuating their responsibility to care for you by believing that you are the chosen person, and that therefore, because you're chosen, no one is allowed to judge or question or hold you accountable for your own actions. Now, some of you might be listening going, hey, that sounds pretty good, but I don't think you understand just how much abuse that is. This is how you're abandoned by society. People aren't treating you like a real person. They're treating you like a vessel. They're treating you like an archetype. This is how we evacuate this person. And by us evacuating our belief and our love in them as a human, they now can function as a vessel for the machine. That machine is this idea of Zionism. Now, right now, we're using the word Zionism to call it that because that's the best word for it. But this is a 7,000-year-old plan. This has been in play for a long, long, long time. It's part of the oral tradition of the Talmud, which means most of us are never even going to be able to hear the entire plan. Most of us are not inside the inner workings of the Talmudic structure to where we aren't even going to understand certain secrets that they're telling each other. So this is a society within a society within a society within a society, a pyramid scheme, just like Amway. You have your outer church, that's the Goyim and the Golem. These are people that are considered more like swine. I need people to understand that the swine flu fraud of 1976 was not fraud. All of these times where we've been injecting animal parts into each other is part of this plan. It is part of the fulfillment. The magic comes when they watch us inject each other with swine parts. That is part of their magic, is seeing that unfold. If you look at every single vaccine that's ever come out, you will find that there is a systematic attack on one thing: your immune system. Your ability to defend yourself is under constant threatening attack. It's been under attack for hundreds of years. Go look back in history. You will see some of the most god-awful people begging you, please, please, please look at this literature. I'm saying god awful because it's like horrific, the drawings they're showing, because they're trying to save their children from this attack of this rape through needles, which is basically what's been happening. This is all part of the same plan, but because it stretches out for thousands of years, it becomes impossible for someone who's been gelded from their family, who's been forced to migrate from country to country, who's lost all connections to the land. They're not able to see the monster for what it is. They're not able to look back further enough in history and go, holy cow, we got to do something about this. It's just that big. It's just that intimidating, and most of us do not have the courage or the fortitude to even admit it exists. We'd rather just tell each other there's no such thing as panthers. There's no such thing as panthers, as we're walking our children out to school and pretending like everything's going to be all right. This is the state that we're in right now, and it's been put on us for a very specific reason. It's part of this process of cultivating our hope for this blood sacrifice that's to come. It's a systematic approach that's been set into place a long time ago. And unless we do something about it, we're going to be participating in the ceremony in broad daylight.
Holy cow. Yeah. We've been under this spell for so long, we don't even see that it's a spell. We don't even see that we've been overridden.
We call voodoo normal. We call the voodoo trance that we're under normal. And by the way, guys, voodoo isn't all bad. Voodoo is just another form of this. There's good magic, bad magic. It's all going to be about your will and what your intentions are. But yeah, we are calling our trance state, the Stockholm syndrome that we live 24/7, we think is normal. We think it's completely normal, and that's why we're doing these weird rituals where we're masochizing ourselves in public. We're literally flogging ourselves and trying to prove who's the more evil among us, and then we're rewarding each other for which one can show just how evil we are to each other. That's what happens in inversion. When you torture a child long enough and you gaslight him the entire time, that child has one of two choices. He's going to be a sadist, he's going to be a masochist. It's only going to be one of those two things. And what we see is a society that's been turned into sadists and masochists, and those people have had children. And then those children had children, and then those children had children. It's a resonance, just like all magic is resonance. This is a resonance that's echoing inside of most of our genes right now. We are epigenetically casting their spell for them. That's why you're seeing people right now going, I'm going to call the cops on you because there's six people right now in the same room, and that's against the law, and you guys are putting us all in danger because you're touching each other, because you're being human right now. We are literally fighting against ourselves right now to try and stay alive. There are sheep out there that are stabbing us in the back saying, how dare you not listen to the rancher? How dare you not listen to the rancher? That's literally our reality right now.
And the problem is through the invention of their internet, gentlemen like James and myself have found a platform to have a voice. And the thing that they really need to stop is us being around each other, because listening to this radio program is one thing, and it's wonderful. And this has absolutely opened up the minds of the world. And now people crave more. And once you start actually getting together, they already understand how this works. If you read their book, it says if 3 or more people get together, that what they're asking will be heard. Doesn't necessarily mean it will happen. Well, when you break that down, what it is now we've got 3 like cells that are all screaming the exact same thing. And so that starts multiplying on itself. It's not just one. So when we actually get together as groups and we start making these interconnections with each other, these are bonds that are much harder to break. And now you don't have this, you don't despise the other people. You don't want to also see them suffer, because part of this being a sadist is you also want to see other people suffer, because they aren't even as good as you, and you're willing to do this kind of suffering. I'm a piece of crap, but you're a way bigger piece of crap. You should be suffering worse than I do. You deserve it.
And when they torture their own families and their own children, and they put them into all these programs, they're just perpetuating all of that so that it continues the same way it's been going for thousands of years.
How do you process the idea that someone genitally mutilated you when you were a child. The only way to do that, if you're already broken, is to gently mutilate someone else. You've been able to pass off that trauma, and you no longer have to own it anymore. You're passing that debt along. That's why half the world is mutilating the boys, and the other half the world is mutilating the girls. This is how you seal a spell. This is how you maintain an epigenetic control over a genetic line, is you have to introduce trauma with honey. It has to come side by side. That's why after you mutilate a boy, you put it in its mother's arms, and she gives it love. That's gaslighting. It's chemical gaslighting. And we know not what we do, which just makes it stay there. And because a child can't talk, he's not able to say, "Could you explain to me why you did that?" "Oh, it's because of your own deep trauma from long ago." "Oh, so epigenetically," no, no child's going to be able to put that together. They're left alone to basically suffer through it, and no one ever gives them an explanation. And my mom's freaking awesome. And I know for a fact if I sat down and had a conversation with her about this, it would be difficult as hell for her to listen to me tell her that. Like, it's just not something that I think she would ever be able to go. How do you come back from that? How do you come back from knowing that you just gave a vaccine to somebody that's actually a psychopathic formula that you just never even considered could possibly be dangerous? How does a nurse come back from that after they've given 16, 20 vaccinations? How does a doctor, after someone looked up at him and said, "Doctor, I trust you. Do you think I should do this?" Yes, you need this polio vaccine. These are thresholds. Pedophilia is a threshold. Cannibalism is a threshold. When you enter a gang and you shoot an innocent person on LA so you can blood up, so you can enter the Bloods, that is a threshold. You cannot go past that threshold again. Once you cross through that door, going back is an impossible journey that only a deep, powerful magi would ever be able to even consider going through. It's going to take that much plasma, that much belief, that much ego, and we don't have that. The opposite is what we have. So it's a never-ending vicious cycle that's just feeding the black magic over and over again.
So let's look at where this started with, is again where you're circumcising. This is again an attack on the root. This is your currently root accessible chakra, and they're going to go down and physically excise pieces off of that. In every single way, they are trying to attack your root. And at the same time, the entire reason that they're doing the sacrifice at the top of the temple is because they're trying to open up their number 9 chakra. So that way they can then access their number 1 chakra. This is the same way that it works in plants. If I take a cannabis plant and I just eat it, the THC, which is the highest level of oil, is not going to be active. You won't get any of the effects out of that. What needs to happen is you need to put that through some pain. You need to put it through some fire and get the carbon molecule to drop out of that. That's why it's called oxycarbylation. You're getting your carbon molecule to drop out, and now that is psychoactive. And once that happens, this is where Odin threw his eye down the well. It's not his physical eye that he threw, it's his all-seeing eye. It's his third eye. Now that is open, his top number 9 chakra, he threw that down the well where that opens up the number 1 salt, or the number 1 chakra. That is your ancestral memories. This is also shown in the runes, where the Odin rune is Othala, and Othala is your ancestral heritage. The Othala goes around and bites the tail of the Fehu, which opens it up and gives you your epigenetic memories and availability to those. In every single way, they need to stop this. And part of this is because they are an etheric worshiping pantheon. People don't realize that in every, like I was explaining earlier, in every level, there's salt beings and there's etheric beings. There's dense and there's ether. In the Abrahamic pantheon, all dense things, they are against. So their dense beings are called demons, and they're hated. Your lowest root chakra is immediately attacked upon birth. In every single way, they want you to get rid of root and go to ether. Every bit of information that they get, even though in their own book it states that angels are liars and deceivers with their own agenda, all the information that's written down in those books comes from angels, because one of them just said he's the voice of God. Well,
like perfect.
Right. Well, when I was 5, I knew if my cousin told me my parents said something that he was probably full of crap, and he was just using the parents as the authority to get me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So in every way, we're talking about an etheric pantheon, an etheric people. This is everything that they are about. And they are all about us being soulless and not having root power. So the obvious thing to do is, as anybody that's listened to James speak about, is wake up the earth. Understand that we are half salt being. We have our 3 levels of oil, but we have our 3 levels of salt, our 12 cellular salts. That is salt of the earth, from the dense portion of the earth inside of it. Not from Midgard, where we live, the dense portion. We have access to that. That's why the classical angel on one shoulder, devil on the other. That's your salt and your oil. And the two each have a voice. We need to start waking up our salt side, waking up our land whites, understanding that there is energy there that we need to access.
So do we do that through grounding?
Absolutely. Through grounding, through understanding like bodies of water, worshiping your ground, putting your true love and intention, talk to it. Go out there and do the work. Make sure you're doing all organic things that will take. One of the biggest things for permaculture that people don't understand is the soil biome. In your commercial agriculture, they're just going in, they rip up the soil, they basically use it as a dead medium. So you could literally make that into styrofoam, into just about anything. Because everything they're adding is a broken down fertilizer. They aren't trying to make a true biome. The way the soil actually works is the same as your stomach. When you eat a food, your stomach has bacteria and enzymes in it, and those break the food down into bioavailable components, which then pass through your intestinal wall, and that's where you receive your nutrition from, not from your stomach itself. So the soil is the plant stomach, and in that soil, there is fungi, bacteria, nematodes, all kinds of different things. And that's what's actually creating your pH balance, is your fungal to bacteria ratio of your soil. So you can, if you do that right, the actual dirt part of it is just carbon. You can take sand and make it into that, the black dirt. Well, we're instead just ripping the life up out of that and then pouring in chemicals that immediately let a plant uptake that don't need to be broken down in the soil biome. Well, because of that, the soil biome is dying. We are literally killing the earth. Between that and that 80% of the trees have been taken out since the Industrial Revolution, that means that direct sun is now just burning away the carbon out of that soil, and that carbon is life. That is the life of the soil. We need to start going back into processes that build up the land and truly work with the land. If you wanted to fix your stomach, you wouldn't attack it. You would go in and rebuild it and give it the true building blocks it needs and love it. And then you're going to find that you're going to start having a relationship with the land, and these things are going to start happening, but you've got to get out there and actually do it.
Yep. Man is the living soil. We are the immune system of the earth right now. And right now, there are white blood cells that are awakened right now and teeming with energy and saying it's go time. And we're surrounded by gray cells that are mute, afraid, and living in this prison of hope where they think that nothing else exists and all they have is themselves to worry about. And our immune system has been attacked, just like they're attacking the immune system inside your body with vaccines. They're attacking the entire land's immune system through migration, forcing migration. That's how you cut the roots up. If you're going to dig a tree up and move it somewhere else, that tree is going to take years and years and years to even look like it might still be growing. It's not the same tree. It's a different kind of plant. No different than if you were to have something growing inside a greenhouse where you're talking to it all the time, playing music and, you know, calling it Ralph, versus something that's outside. Those are going to be two totally different plants. As above, so below, guys. What Ben's talking about, you can take that exact same magic and apply it to your inner life, and you're going to know it all resonates. And that's why you know what truth is. Truth is a resonance. You feel it in your bones. That's why you got to stop listening to the zeitgeist, because zeitgeist tells you truth that you feel in your chemicals. Why? Because it makes you feel good. That's what news is. It's a heroin. It's a psychic heroin that comes out. Truth is something felt in the bones. It's like a broccoli. If you've been raised the whole time on sugar and someone gives you broccoli, you're going to be like, what are you trying to do? And what you're trying to do is connect to the truth. You got to find the truth. And you guys are the living soil. You are not people that were brought here. This world wasn't built and then you were brought here. This world is unfolded. It doesn't have a beginning and ending. It's a fractal. And if you open that fractal up, you're going to find that the soil has an immune system just like you did. Man is that immune system. We need to wake up. We need to wake up and defend our land. That's the only way we're going to fix this. And all the power is right there on the table because these fuckers unleashed it with magic, and we get to take it back. All you got to do is take it back and say, all the consent that I've ever given the government ever, I am now calling back and placing it on my shoulders. I am placing it inside the earth to which I stand on top of. It was wrong of me to give them all that belief. Any belief that they have from me now will only be used to bring them down, because I am in charge of that belief now, and I call that consent back now, and I use it to defend this soil in my living way, in my living life. That's why I'm here. It's literally why we're here, is to do this.
And right now, we're given the perfect opportunity to do that. This is that moment, people.
Yes.
We are all being held at home. Our lives are disrupted. They're broken down now. Now is the time that you can say, break it all down and look at it and say, listen, what future do I want? And start doing that right now. You have the time. You have the freedom. You can start developing a supply chain that is local, where you are now depending on your neighbors and on people that you know, rather than depending on this overarching corporation or government that you're never going to meet and doesn't know you nor care about you. You can start doing all those little things. Start fixing the things in your home that you were going to pay another person to go do. Start developing a relationship with that home and understanding it. Like an old mechanic that actually worked on his own car. Anything that happened to that car, he immediately knew what was going on, because he understood it, everything about it. He'd gotten into it and observed it, become part of it. Yeah, this is one of the things that... Go ahead, Jimmy.
It makes so much sense. I'm sorry, Benjamin, to cut you off. We only have a few seconds left before the break. We have one more segment coming up. If anybody's got questions out there, pop them in the chat for us. We'll be happy to talk to you about that. You're listening to Inside the Matrix. We'll be right back after a few short messages.
You're listening to Inside the Matrix. Inside the Matrix.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Inside the Matrix. This is our final segment for today's show. And in this segment, guys, I really want to try and focus on the positive side of and the empowering things that we can do. And one of the things that I'd like to ask our listeners to do is to share this kind of information. If it resonates with you, if you see the truth in what we're saying here, and what we're putting out, please share it with your friends or anybody who's willing to listen. Obviously, we can't just blast this to anybody because many people are so incredibly programmed. They're not ready to hear it. They don't want to hear it. But when you encounter people who are asking questions, And there's going to be a lot of questions now because the shit's hit the fan big time. Those are the kind of people that we need to talk to and share with, share this kind of information. We need to come together as communities in so many ways. And part of that is sharing this information. And even beyond that, to keep us going here, and I've never asked anybody for help as long as I've been doing this show, but we've come to a point where if we're going to continue this show, we do need some help. And there is a donate button on the homepage of kcorradio.com, and you can designate which show that you want to donate to. But I'm asking you, not if you're in a spot like a lot of us are in, where you don't have a lot of excess funds, but if you do find yourself being that fortunate to where you can spare a few bucks to help us keep the show on there, that would be much appreciated. And I feel crazy and embarrassed to even have to mention that because I never thought it would come to this point, but I have to throw it out there because we want to keep doing this. Anyway, guys, let's talk about some very positive things that we can do going forward.
I want to just start and say that Ben and I had a conversation a week ago, and we've been wanting to do a show together a long time, and we specifically chose this show and Jimmy for this job. I just can't speak highly enough of what you're doing, Jimmy, and so I would encourage anyone to do the same. I'm not just saying that. Ben and I had this conversation, and we were like, "You want to do this guy? No. You want to do this guy? No." It was like, "Yes, let's do Jimmy." So I want the listeners to hear that before we go on.
He is absolutely one of the easiest and best people to talk to that I've dealt with.
Exactly. And so I guess to kick that off, if you don't mind, Ben, I'll just kind of go first.
Absolutely.
What I'm trying to focus on right now is reminding people that they are taller than 6 feet, that they have an underground root structure that is so much longer and deeper than they are tall. And that root structure is touching the ground. And this machine, let's call it a machine, is paving this world over. And it's filling the bottom with electric roots that have nothing to do with the land at all. And it's a black tar kind of amnesia that's being laid on the land. And you can stick your fingers and your toes underneath that concrete and reconnect with that soil. The second you touch your bare feet to ground, billions of what we call electrons, that's what we call them, are going to be pouring up from the earth into you. That is the ground, like the mana ground. That is the ultimate form of recharge energy. That's why they want you up in skyscrapers. They want you as far away from that energy as you can get. This is why they shame Hades. This is why they try and tell you to fear the underworld. What they want you to fear is literally the source of all your power. Why? Because you are the living soil. You are the immune system. The earth is waiting to tap into you. They're giving you this idea about space, but they haven't told you something. Your consciousness could not even exist in the exosphere. You'd be too far away from your base station. You are a living representation of the soil. You can't just move somewhere. I can't just go out to Ben's house and expect to be James True when I get there. It's not going to happen. If I was to do that, he'd be like, "Who are you? What happened to you?" I'm not saying you're not allowed to move. I'm saying that you have to understand that when you pull your roots up and put them somewhere else, that's a big, big deal. That's why they are always pushing migration. This is how they're cutting us off. So the key to all this is you need to reconnect to the soil, you need to reconnect to your power, and you need to find the opposite of hope. You need to find courage. You need to understand that magic is all about sacrifice. What that means is that when you're walking through the building and they're telling you, "No, you have to have no contact. You got to stay 6 feet away." You have to sacrifice that person liking you. Look them right in the eye and say, "I do not consent to that black magic spell." Humans are supposed to touch. If humans don't touch, we die. So for them to tell us we can't touch is for them to tell us to die. I'm not buying that bullshit. You can take it somewhere else, or you can sit here and fight me for it. But I'm not going to accept that from you. That is a sacrifice you're making. You're embarrassing yourself. You're causing a scene. You're making them hate you. They might come back weeks later and try and fight you or take something from you at work. Who knows what kind of bullshit goes on, right? That's your sacrifice to the magic. And if you stand your ground, that sacrifice is going to pay off. Why? Because Lucy in accounting overheard that. You didn't know that, but she did. She heard the whole damn thing. And she's going to the grocery store and she's going to try and pick up something. And someone's going to be waiting outside. Could you hurry up? Because I want to get in and I don't want to touch you. She's going to look at her and she's going to go, I don't buy that shit. I do not consent. This is a total psyop. If you're going to believe this, you might as well believe the next story they're going to tell you and the next story and the next story. This is a resonance, which means you're a tuning fork. Your body is a literal tuning fork. Strike the tone that best sets who you are. Set your destiny in that tone and just watch. Just watch how many other people see that and go, holy shit, I want some of that. What does that guy have? I'll have double. And that's how we spread it, and that's how we win, and that's how we fix this whole problem. I promise it's just that easy. You got to be willing to sacrifice, though. You got to be willing to tap down and dig deep because it's hard work, man. That's what this world's all about. It's all about hard work. It's beautiful. It's what makes us hungry. It's what makes food taste good. So go out there and get it.
Fire. Love it.
Yeah, awesome.
So the entire reason that there's this real huge push and heavy heat being put on us now, and why they're having to enact martial law without calling it martial law, is absolutely because whenever poison oak appears, soaproot or manzanita appears next to it. The universe is about balance, and the stronger and more powerful that they become, and the more power that they have the capability of unlocking, we also gain that same power. We're living in the same time. They don't experience spring, and we don't get spring. We both get spring. So while they're expecting this rush of power, understand you can also access it. That your entire life you've been living in a magic spell. That every time you drive down main streets and the city was built in a certain pattern to have certain energy flow through it, and those are the main streets that have the most traffic, that are constantly filled with people, constantly filled with living energy, that in a computer component, the way that the pathways are flowing down the motherboard, there's a reason that looks like an ancient pyramid that had the top cut off, because things just work the way they work. And once we decide that we can start understanding that we quit believing that magic is Mickey Mouse going ooh la la, and something just magically happens and sparkles shoot out of the end of his wand. When we understand that magic is putting the method to the madness, doing the work, doing the study, understanding that even when I watch the alchemical marriage of a plant, that is magic. That is amazing. But it took so much study to get me to the point to understand the work that I had to do in order to even get there. So we need to not be the ones that are trying to be the couch quarterback. You need to actually get in there, get your hands dirty, start doing the work, and understanding that you do have the power. You don't need a superhero to come save you. Superhero is never coming. You are your own superhero. You're creating your reality. And the more of us that can make this reality the one that we want, this works exactly the same as the old high school parties where everybody started dumping liquor into the trash barrel. Whichever liquor is the most powerful, that's the one we taste. Quit letting them dump peppermint schnapps into your trash can.
Great way to put it. James, go ahead.
All of this is going to be uncomfortable for a while. Each of you, as you awaken, the things that we're asking you to do are going to have dopamine consequences. You're going to lose some serotonin. It's not going to feel as good for a while. I want you to equate it to going to the gym or going to yoga or whatever. And if you were to do a plank, which is, like when you sit in a push-up position and you hold that for a while, when you first start doing planks, you're going to find that they're very annoying. They're very painful. There's nothing enjoyable about it all. And you suck at it. Like you really suck bad at it.
And I need you to stay in that pocket. I need you to understand that pain that you're feeling, that dread that you have about putting the time in, this is all a very important part of the magic. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the magic. You are willing to go through that. It's no different than saying wiping the crusty nose of a child. You love that child so much, you don't care that it's covered in boogers. You're willing to go through that because that's how important it is to you. And understand that these planks, these spiritual planks that Ben and I are telling you to do, they're not wasted energy. It's actually going into the alchemy of the magic itself. So look at that as a blessing. Realize that you actually have an advantage because someone who's been doing planks forever, like Ben, he's going to have to do a plank for like 17 minutes while you only have to do one for 10. Why? Because that's how much longer it's going to take him to come up with the same amount of sacrifice energy as you because you've never done one before. So I need you to understand that this is going to be hard and you want it hard. I want you to look at that hardness as a blessing and go, thank you. Thank you. I can get out of here so much easier because it doesn't take so much for me to throw stuff into the pot. Learn this small magic. Learn it on your plants. Learn it on your animals. Learn it on your neighbors. But do me a favor. I need you guys to understand that the people who've been around you the longest are going to be the ones that fight your magic the most. And it's nothing against them. It's not that they're bad people. You've set a tone with them. You've set a habit with them. You've told them, here's my prana economy. I will always respond in this way. I am a certain amount of deactivated. I'm not in touch with my own power. And when you walk in the next day after doing a plank, they're going to be like, what the hell's that guy pulling? Why is he changing his pranic energy on me? How dare he do that? For 7 years, he always acted this way. And now he all of a sudden wants to say ego isn't a bad word. What the hell's wrong with him? I need to put him down right now. You need to understand that people don't like you because you're nice. They like you because you're predictable. You have to understand that. It's because you're predictable. That's why you love the curmudgeon at work. He's always such a jerk all the time. You still like him. You still call him curmudgeon because he's always a jerk, because he's always consistent. And that reptilian inside you, that deep reptilian, is desperate to save calories. And it's only going to react to things that are novel. And as long as you're acting the same, it's going to find comfort around you. Why? Because you're never novel. You're never doing anything different. Now you're going to start doing things different. And people are going to get mad at you. And guess what? It's also a gift. Because all that anger they're throwing at you, that's sacrifice for your magic. It's something you cannot go out to the store and say, hi, could you be mad at me, please? Because I'd like to use that anger for some magic at home. You're never going to be able to do that. So you're going to find that the people that are around you are the ones that are most empowering you. But they're empowering you by being angry at you. They're empowering you by refusing to talk to you ever again. I've got best friends that I've known my whole life that will not talk to me now. Why? Because I woke up. Because pain cracked me open. Because the way this life works, we are all husks. And we're waiting for this magical gift that someone's going to come, whether it be an ex-wife or a job or a death. We're waiting for this beautiful, beautiful gift to come, which is called pain. Pain is not panic. It's very different. Fear, pain, and panic are very different actions. Pain is a very specific action that literally cracks you open. And when it cracks you open, that's where you're going to find you have the most potential. And you can use that cracking to put yourself in exactly the perfect soil that you're going to find, that you're going to slip down to just like a nice warm bath. And your roots are going to go, oh, this feels so good to be here. And you're going to know you're home. You're going to understand that you're home. And it's going to be something where you're touching the ground, guys. It's not going to be something that's a skyscraper. It's not going to be about money. It's not going to be about status. It's not going to be about fashion. It's going to be about your connection into the earth using your psychic roots, which means you got to find them. And everyone else is going to be mad at you saying, no, you don't have those. How dare you do that? Keep going. Keep going. All of this is worth it in the end. I promise you.
And what James is saying, when you apply that alchemically, understand that, like we were talking about with the THC, the most high potent oil in the plant, does not unlock and become available until you have oxycarbonated it, which includes putting it through the fire. Going through the fire is the only way you access those heights. As a weightlifter, if you every day just pick up a 5-pound weight, you're going to get used to that 5-pound weight, and that's all your ability is going to be. And every time you pick up a 20-pound weight, it's going to hurt. You keep picking that 20-pound weight up and then start picking up a 50-pound weight, and your limits are endless.
Your limits are the amount of time you have to sacrifice, right? Like that's really your limit. Yep.
How much you're willing to put into it. No, that was perfect, James. Perfect. It's your limit is what you're willing to sacrifice and put into it. And that's going to include pain. Every time in order for a muscle to grow, it creates tiny little tears all over the muscle. And then those tears rebuild and refill in and become stronger and larger. That includes a pain process. When you were a small child and you and you went through your teenage growth spurt, I know people that curled up into balls and cried because they were in so much physical pain of their body just to become bigger. Pain is the only coin that the universe recognizes for growth. It's not something to shy away from. It's something you need to understand, as James just so eloquently put it. The bigger the payment, the more you get. This isn't something to shy away from.
Here. And it's hard to find. I don't think we recognize what a blessing it is to have a trauma or a pain occur to us. And we have to alchemize that properly. Because the second we feel fear, most of us automatically think, I have to shed this fear. I have to shed this. And you're going to open that airlock and you're going to lose that entire warp core. And that's part of the magic, is you these 5-step process. And that first step is realize pain is a gift. Pain is a gift. And then you start to build yourself up these steps and you go higher and higher. And then you're finally going to reach, what Ben's talking about, where you can alchemize that. This is all above my head. This is why I love Ben, because he's telling me things that I've tried to see, but I'm like a neophyte to this side of it. This is why it's so beautiful that we're talking together, because I'm telling you guys, Ben and I have approached a clearing in the forest from 2 totally different directions, man. We didn't know each other a month ago. We came from totally different places, and we're looking at each other going, holy shit, this is truth. How could it not be the truth? He came from this totally different place, and he's saying the exact same things I am, and all we do is agree. And it sounds like we're practicing this stuff. Like it sounds like we're this tag team wrestler that's been doing this forever. This is our first show together, guys. This is the first time we've ever done it. And I know what Ben's going to say, even though he's teaching me stuff the entire time. That's part of the resonance of truth. We feel each other in our bones. Our endocrine systems are connected through this kind of telepathy. It's empathy, though. It's not mental thoughts. It's our bodies have physically connected to the emotions of each other. And because we're emoting on each other, we're resonating on each other, which means he's such a badass that I'm automatically elevated by his presence and vice versa. This is how it works. This is what makes a tribe so much more powerful than a corporation. It's totally different magic. Corporation's going to need thousands of people to be as powerful as a tribe of 12. It's always going to work that way. They're going to have a giant tower, guys, in the back, in the skyscraper you're going to be able to see for miles and miles. And you're going to think, oh, they must be more powerful than I am. But no, because you're going to be in the trees. Your feet are going to be in the dirt. And you're going to be a fucking badass. It's like a Jedi against 1,000 stormtroopers. It really is that much of a ratio of difference when you're fully connected and fully invested in the earth. Because you've got her behind you. You've got all that energy pouring up into you going, go, go, go. It's a totally different kind of thing. Tap into it, guys. You will not be sorry. I promise you that.
Now, how does this work if you've got trauma, let's say childhood trauma? We're taught to stuff all this stuff down and never, acknowledge it, get rid of it at all costs. That's kind of like our automatic reaction to it. How can somebody take trauma and use that to their advantage?
So some of the strongest magic practitioners in the South American areas such as that this is not a practice that I'm encouraging in any way, but people should look at dark shamanism and understand that what they're doing is they're taking potential children and they're torturing them. And they're putting them through just the most mind-numbing torture in order to get them to crack that nut. Now, I would not ever advise to put a child through this, but understand that the ones of us that have been through a natural hardship, that we can at least understand what they're doing. We've also been put through the fire. It's just not some twisted douchebag that put us through the fire. So we take that and we use that to make us stronger. When I ran 5 miles yesterday, I could either sit there and go, oh God, that was horrible. I hated that. That was the worst thing ever. Or I can say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to run 5 miles today and then 5 miles tomorrow. And then sometime next month, when I run 5 miles, it's not going to be as big a deal. I'm not even going to care. Mm-hmm. This is something, rather than hide from these traumas, exalt your having lived through it. I'm a beast. This is one thing that if you've never been like a wrestler or a UFC fighter, when you go in there and pit yourself against somebody else and you come out and it's like, you know what? I did that. I survived. There's a power there. You can't take that away. People need to get that again. And they're not wanting it. They're wanting the superhero, the hope. The superhero, as James said, with the hope, is sitting over there in the corner saying, will somebody please save me? The fighter's going out saying, save me? I'm about to whip your ass.
That's great. Yeah, and that's where ego is going to serve us, because we need to have the confidence to know that we can accomplish these things.
Yeah, that's an electrical field around you that's causing that. And you need to understand that if you're going to find a sparring partner who's going to punch you, no matter if you're in a good mood or a bad mood, that's a hard person to find. It's very difficult to find a good sparring partner that's willing to do that, that's willing to just keep pounding you, because they love you, because they believe in what you're doing. You can take all that trauma that you've ever experienced in your life and alchemically transmit it to magic right now. That's what I'm doing right now, guys. I've lived with panthers my entire life, and I'm surrounded by people that claim they don't exist. The moment everyone sees the panther, all of the pain that I ever went through in my life is alchemically changed into pure, raw magic power for everyone else. And I hope that we see it in time.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. I really appreciate you sharing with us today, and let's do it again soon. You've been listening to Inside the Matrix. Everybody, hang in there. Take back your power. We'll see you next time.
This is Inside the Matrix, hosted by Jimmy Brent.
Who are we talking about?
Jimmy Brent. Live every Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
It is worldwide.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the neon capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. For more information on the host and the show, please visit InsideTheMatrix.org. That's InsideTheMatrix.org. It's time to break the chains of manipulated consciousness and claim our true nature as creative divine beings. Inside the Matrix. Inside the Matrix.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.